Hello, I'm Jan Czerwiński and you're watching TVP World Talks, where every word matters. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk has made a major announcement on the country's economic future, promising to push investments into overdrive, achieving a GDP growth of 4% in the process. With a grand total of at least 155 billion euros to spend, the government wants to achieve a balanced mix of old and new, with a focus on both traditional sectors such as energy and infrastructure, as well as state-of-the-art projects in the digital realm. Plans include a major AI cluster, intelligent power networks, new container terminals, and not one but two nuclear power plants. What challenges and what opportunities lie ahead of Poland's administration as it seeks to reassert the country's economic position in the region? Joining us now is Paweł Wojciechowski, Poland's former finance minister. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Nice to be here.
So let's begin with the overall concept. A year of breakthrough. Do you think that 2025 will live up to its name?
Yes, definitely it's a breakthrough. I mean, first of all, if you look at the words, Prime Minister Tusk said it's composed of three things: investments, investments, and investments. And if you look at in the past, we lagged behind, rate of investments in Europe. With around 17%. Former Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said we would have 25% of investments. We actually dropped down. So we were sluggish in private investments, which are the most important. It's like a litmus test of competitiveness of the economy that could grow. It's very much needed. We grew on consumption, but not on investment. So we need to put on the second leg, which is investments. And now, as Prime Minister Tusk said, we made a first step, which is we recovered the funds of Next Generation EU funds, that were blocked for 2 years in the past.
And we're talking about investments in terms of the private sector, but are we referring to foreign investments or investments in general?
Investments,
so also including the domestic part.
Yeah, so in general, we talk about investments. Usually the investments are of three sectors. One is, government investments. We talk about them as well. Private investments, which, that's by households and by enterprises. So, in fact, Poland has about 5% of GDP of public investments. And this is about okay. But private investments, which are done by households and by businesses, are much below the EU average. So we need to boost the private investments, but we cannot boost the private investments without two things. First, to improve investment climate. So there was a talk about deregulation. And second one is to boost public investment still and finance also funded from EU funds, because this is going to be the accelerator. The adding on effects of those investments, which are public investments, would accelerate the private investments. So we're talking about the so-called crowding in rather than crowding out investments.
So we're also talking about basically facilitating the release of energy, as it was called. And Prime Minister Tusk actually didn't only refer to the energy sector, but also the energy that has, as you've actually mentioned, been stored within society, within businesses, but was not able to be fully utilized because of excessive regulation. Do you think that cutting red tape can be achieved as quickly as Prime Minister promised it to be? What challenges do you think have to be dealt with in order for this to happen?
Yeah, this is just a right comment on spot, because energy is being considered to be energy prices, for example, and energy transition towards the green energy. And it was also mentioned that we need to transform energy into the more sustainable sources of energy to have lower prices. At the same time, Prime Minister Tusk said about energy of people. And cutting red tape is one of the elements, That, unfortunately, I'm more skeptical about that. They cannot be easily achieved because most of the regulations come from the EU. 70% of regulations which are formed in Poland, on those, for example, on artificial intelligence today, are coming from the EU.
So they are partially beyond our control, so they would also require a
yes.
concerted effort to negotiate with our partners
Exactly.
within the European Union in order to change these regulations.
Yes, but at the same time, there was a, very, breakthrough as well in the European Union, because, Prime Minister Tusk went to the European Parliament and said, European Union is known for its regulations. Now we need to deregulate. So now the head of European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, announced so-called competitiveness compass, which actually also talk about deregulation. So hopefully there will be deregulation at the EU level and deregulation in Poland. And the two will combine together. So we have to watch very closely how this momentum will accelerate. But we need to look at both sides of the coin.
And this is a process, right? So it could be a bit time-consuming. Do you think that a solution that has also been presented, to some extent at least, as an outline, is to involve the business community in deregulating those areas which do not require legislative change? This was actually something that was mentioned during the exchange between Prime Minister and one of the leading members of Poland's business community. He was actually offered the task of heading the sort of deregulation team. Do you think that this is the right solution there, which could actually help speed things up a bit?
Well, I'm here a little bit skeptical, because there's hardly any regulation that would not touch the money. So they would not have fiscal effect. I participated in commissions of Mr. Balcerowicz, of Mr. Palikot, and other couple of members of the parliament. And in fact, I have to tell you, it is hardly, it's almost impossible to propose something which has no fiscal impact. And those are rudimentary issues. So I would say, I would think that we need to go much beyond that. Go with the regulation package, which will affect fiscal and structural changes in Poland. For example, tax simplification was not mentioned in the speech of Prime Minister Tusk. But of course, the president of this company, Mr. Rafał Brzoska, who is, this is actually also a technological company. He accepted the challenge. I'm glad, because he would be able to understand how difficult it is to deregulate. He was very outspoken about we need courage to deregulate. So, okay, Prime Minister said, okay, we entrust you the job. Would you take it? And he said, yes, challenge is accepted.
So vague similarities between the interaction between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, although without the social media controversy, obviously. But, we have actually a business person who will be in charge of deregulation, which, sounds like what is actually about to happen in the US. We're going to have to wait and see if it is successful. Now, another issue there is the question of which area do you think is likely to be the biggest problem? Do you think that public investment will be easy, for example, to achieve to the extent that was promised? 2 nuclear power plants, major investment in the rail network. Can you see any area which can actually become slightly more problematic than it may seem initially?
I am here rather optimistic. First of all, we're talking about mature projects today. Most of them have roadmaps to achieve, like decarbonization projects, nuclear power plant, the first one. The second one would be financed by private money, and decision has to be made. In general, I would say I see no problems with this level of 650 billion zloty or 700 billion zloty. It's around 17% of GDP. I think it would be more even if we add, European funds and some multiplier effects, potentially from business. But it shows that, we need to think this is a breakthrough in the terms of this discussion, that the government is proposing that, we will not do it alone. Let's you, business, engage in this whole activity, but we promise you some stability in our planning, because we have goals, we have projects, we have state-owned companies, and we are open for you to discuss the regulation. So it's a breakthrough in type of understanding how we would go about it, So it's a model of cooperation that was presented rather than all specific ideas. But I'm glad that it was not shown on the PowerPoint presentations, because in the past we had a lot of PowerPoint presentations by the former Prime Minister and hardly anything completed. So there was a lot of propaganda in the sense of what we'll do, what we will do, but nothing happened. Most of those projects were, not completed or actually stay on the slides, on PowerPoint presentation only.
Speaking of differences between the two governments, do you think that this shift, because it appears there is going to be a shift in emphasis, the previous government was mostly about social welfare. They actually made it one of the key projects, and to some extent they did deliver on that. Now, Donald Tusk wants to shift that into a pro-business approach. Do you think that society is now ready to do that? Essentially, that looking at the way the welfare has been transferred, poverty to some extent has been alleviated. Are we now ready to move to a more pro-business approach and therefore be able to pursue more ambitious goals in terms of the country's growth?
I think I would make a little bit different approach to that. I think that all social elements of the social program will stay, will not change much. This was the promise of this government. But in terms of business and investments, we will be more realistic. We'll do what is needed and not what is, political. For example, some airport which doesn't really work today because there's no passengers, or some, electrical, coal power plant that would have to be a lot of expenditures for that will have to be actually scrapped today. So we're talking about more realistic investments together with business and looking for business guidance, rather than looking at what we think is going to be a great Poland, which nothing happened. Okay?
So do you think this can actually help, like essentially being able not only to draw up certain plans, but also talk to the business community and ask them, okay, do you think this is going to work from your experience, so that the experience in administration and in doing actual business can be combined to achieve these deliverables quicker, more efficiently?
This is exactly what it's all about. It's a kind of reality check. We will invest what is really needed, what comes from business community today, not from our ideas, what we would, revive Poland, have some, electric cars that will, Poland is not ready for that plant, or maybe have other type of, for example, projects which are politically motivated. So there's this grandiose projects, that come from the past, but it's rather, what is already in the pipeline, what is needed very much and very coherent with the EU policy. For example, on a Green Deal, or decarbonization, on innovative economy, on pushing towards the venture capital companies, on market, capital market, union, which is, kind of, increasing the savings to do more investments in Europe, bringing more investment for direct investment. So altogether, it's a different package. It's a package which is much closer to reality, much closer to the needs of the business today in Poland and the preparedness of the project which are in the pipeline.
Paweł Wojciechowski was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your expertise.
Thank you very much.
And I'm Jonasz Rewiński. You're watching TVP World. Stay with us for more latest news and features.